ARRL NTS Net Nightly at 6:30 p.m. W5FC.
Station, this is Tom, KE6QIX, calling CQ, just trying to test out this Echolink equipment, see how well it's going to work on this computer. And if you come back to me, KE6QIX. Key up and I didn't get the message, KE6QIX.
KE6QIX, this is KF5PDS. This is Billy. Welcome to the frequency. I'm on Echolink. I can hear you as well. We are getting ready to start a net in less than 1 minute. Actually, it's 9 p.m., so we're getting ready to start a net. You're welcome to stay on frequency and join us for the net. So we'll call for check-ins when we get the net started. Welcome. Anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? This is KF5PDS. My name is Billy, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign, break, and your call sign. Is emergency or priority traffic? directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.880 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 347. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. And remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope, National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening, Was Up, space exploration and space history, constellation of the week, space launches of the week, recent astronomical discoveries, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and our 73 round. Amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So at this time, I will turn the net over to my alternate net control station, Tom, KE5ICX. If you'll do the check-in honors, please.
Thank you, Miss Billy, and thank you for doing the net this evening as net control. This is KE5ICX, Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray. My name is Tom. I will be your alternate net control station. I'll be checking everybody in. So we begin with low power and short time check-ins. If you are one of those, please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from. Let me know if you're low power or short time. Let's begin. Well, that was easy. Let's go ahead and take general check-ins now. Now, please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Mesquite. Go Buckeyes!
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
This is Kilo 5, Kilo Tango X-Ray, Kelly in Quinlan. Go Ponies!
This is Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda and DeSoto. Go Longhorns!
This is Whiskey 5, Golf, Uniform, Sierra, Gus, far, far northeast, Dallas.
This is November 5, Bravo, Bravo, Bill in Irving. Go, 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 Longhorns.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Uniform, Foxtrot Romeo, Jacob, Dallas, Texas.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
This is 05, Juliet, Delta Whiskey, John in Coppell, Texas. Go Earth and go the 25 solar year.
This is Alpha Golf 5, Papa Mike, Rich in Rockwall.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Echo India Uniform, David, St. Paul, Texas.
This is Alpha Golf 9, Sierra Golf, Antonio in Dallas.
brief pause there. Let's go ahead and get those folks checked in. We've got KF5JHA, Chaz in Mesquite, NT5TM, Tony in Dallas, K5KTX, Miss Kelly in Quinlan, WB50ZL, Miss Brenda in DeSoto, W5GUS, Gus in far northeast Dallas, N5BB, Mr. Bill Irving, KG5UFR, Jacob in Dallas, KG5 Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton, KF5ZBL, Mr. Bill Farmer Branch, K5JDW, John in his home here in Texas, actually, Capel, AG5PM, Rich in Rockwell, KG5EIU, David St. Paul, AG9er, Sierra Golf, that's Antonio in Dallas. I'll take additional check-ins. Please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from.
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot, India, WV4MFI, Ted, Dallas, low power.
W5BLT, Bill Garland.
This is Kilo Echo 5, Papa Oscar Echo Lee in Mansfield.
All right, we picked up 3 more. We've got WB4MFI, Ted, Dallas. I got you low power. W5BLT, that's Bill in Garland. Welcome, Bill. KE5POE, that's Lee in Mansfield. I've got you checked in as well. Anyone else over air, please come with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from. All right, let's go over to Echolink. I will give you extra time. Please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from. Echolink only, please.
Oh, Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey J, near Weatherford.
Like an episode of The Waltons over here on the chat. Most of the folks that are on Echolink have already checked in by RF, but I do have Jay, KG5BZW, near Weatherford. He is checked in. I'll open it up to anyone, any mode who'd like to join us. Please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
This is Alpha Alpha 5 Alpha Hotel, Robert Richardson.
All right, we picked up one more. That's AA5AH, Robert in Richardson. So, Miss Billy, we're up to 20 check-ins. We'll do some more a little later, but the net, I'll send the net back to you. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. and welcome to all who have checked in on Skynet. All right, so let's get started with some general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. If you have an announcement, please come now with your...
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
T5 p.m. Tony, good evening. What announcements do you have for us this evening?
Good evening, Billy, and thank you for taking my check-in, Tom. Great to hear both of you tonight. I'd like to remind everyone that this is not our last net of the evening. We do have the Afterglow movie discussion, which I believe will be featuring the movie Star Trek Insurrection, an actual big-budget Hollywood movie, not an old black and white one from the 50s. So you get all the pluses and minuses of a big-budget movie. We'll be talking about it tonight at about 10:30-ish right here on this repeater. Don't forget that Monday night is GeekNet right here at 7 p.m. Any topic of discussion or news item is welcome. It doesn't have to be ham radio related. If you like to geek out about getting your beehives ready for the winter, you are very welcome to talk about that on GeekNet this Monday right here at 7. And finally, please don't forget that the October 2021 Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting is a virtual show and tell. We've done this before. It was a lot of fun, and we're going to do it again. This next meeting is Tuesday, October 5th at 7 p.m. Tuesday, October 5th at 7 p.m. Please head over to w5fc.org and sign up. That will let us know how many folks need some time to present, and we'll appreciate anything you'd like to show off, a lecture and lab kit, a station accessory, just whatever you think we'd like to see. And of course, you'll get entered in a drawing to win a gift card at HRO. So, love to hear you in all the nets, and please head over to w5fc.org to sign up for our show and tell. NT5TM.
Thank you very much, Tony. Does anyone else have any announcements? If so, please come now with your call sign. Hearing any, so I'll go ahead with a few announcements of my own. The AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 2 nets available to Dallas residents on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. You'll need Echolink installed and you registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website at www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. The Dallas AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.880 megahertz, with a PL tone of 110.9. Tuesday, Tom N5HYP is the net control. All are welcome to check in. First Tuesday of the month is the DARC Club night, so on that night there is no AMSAT East. AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.140 megahertz, with a PL tone of 110.9 and a positive offset. The DARC hosts several Monday night nets. First Monday of the month is Ham Fixin's Net. If you want to come and share recipes, have a question or anecdote about food, come enjoy Ham Fixin's Net on the first Monday. Second month is MCOM 101, Emergency Communication. Back for a second helping of Ham Fixin's Net on the third Monday. And fourth, Tony mentioned, is GeekNet. If there's ever a fifth Monday, then it's a surprise net. If we told you what it was, it wouldn't be a surprise. On-air participation is encouraged. And as we mentioned before, Tuesdays, AMSAT East is at 8 p.m. There's question and answer, info and news for amateur satellites. On Fridays, we have CERT City Simulation, summer hours at 8 p.m. Learn about emergency radio communications via CERT-trained amateur radio operators. Lissa, KI5GRH, is usually the net control. Visit the most disaster-prone city in the universe every Friday at CERT City. All are welcome. And Saturdays is the Night of Nets with TechNet from 7 to 8 p.m. And, of course, at 9 p.m., Skynet. And as Tony mentioned, following Skynet is the Afterglow Movie Net. More on that in just a moment. And the first and third Sundays is the Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air. There's the ARRL Net National Traffic System Training Net every night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. All are welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. More about the Afterglow Movie Net. So if you're new to this net, the way the Afterglow works is we have a list of movies that we'll choose from, and anybody can volunteer a movie to be put on the list. We'll choose a movie, we'll watch it during the week at our convenience, and then at 10:30 p.m. after Skynet, we will discuss that movie. We'll discuss everything from plot to characterization, special effects, music, or any other bit of about the film. So it's always a good time on the Afterglow Movie Net. This time, I will turn the net over to Tom, KE5ICX, to give tonight's Afterglow info from KF5PDS.
Thank you, Miss Billy. This is KE5ICX. Here is my highly accurate summary of the film for tonight at 10:30. Captain Picard and his first officer, Commander Riker, just shook their heads when Data, their mechanical sewing machine, and second officer appeared from a cloaking device and once again was smashing things in the Baku village. They'd seen this before when they were watching the Watchers. But that didn't bother them, since they'd also found the Baku rejected technology and their bags were packed without their permission just in front of the big holodeck, just like that Journey's End mission. Riker looked around and spotted Admiral Doherty hiding the batteries to the holodeck. Riker knew that look. He'd seen it before with his former captain, Eric Pressman, from the Pegasus. You know, Riker, all this sounds familiar. Remember when we read about Kirk and the crazy commander who thought he'd live forever? I think Doherty fell for it. The exhausted writer woke up from his nap. Other writers were working feverishly to complete the latest Star Trek movie script. He had an idea. Just take all the old scripts and come up with a new story. He had a name. Star Trek, the Pegasus, Who Watches the Watchers, Omega Glory, and Future Imperfect. Someone else had a better idea. How about we just call it Star Trek Insurrection? Immediately, the writers rushed over to open an old chest of Star Trek scripts and started pasting plot lines together. They had a new revenue stream using an old revenue stream. So join us for the rather familiar Star Trek Insurrection, which looks suspiciously like a whole bunch of old Star Trek episodes tonight at 10:30 p.m. Oh, and don't forget, I do have this little mini announcement. We're planning an October 29th party at around 8 p.m. Tom N5HYP is planning an outside house party where we'll be watching Max Headroom 20 minutes into the future, weather permitting, of course. Look for updates on this and the Afterglow Movie Net later on. Back to you, Miss Billy. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you very much, Tom. And you can keep up with all the DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, w5fc.org. Next up is Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events. So this time I'll call on anyone if they have information about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas. Please come now with your call sign.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha.
JHA. Chaz, good evening. What information do you have for us from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas?
Thank you, Billy. Good evening, everyone. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, October the 22nd at 7:30 p.m. The last one was just last night. The meeting will be held on Zoom. The scheduled speakers, Brother Guy, Consomagno, I'm sure I've messed up his name. We'll just call him Brother Guy. He's an American research astronomer, physicist, Jesuit priest, director of the Vatican Observatory, and president of the Vatican Observatory Foundation. Brother Guy is one of the authors of the popular book Turn Left at Orion, and Brother Guy's topic is discarded worlds, astronomical ideas that were almost correct. Task Club members will receive an email link to the Zoom meeting in advance of the meeting. And Saturday night public observing sessions have been placed on hold again because of COVID. One of the reasons that Skynet was picked to be on Saturday nights was so that there was an opportunity for live reports from the TAST public observing sessions that are also held on Saturday nights. But again, they're on pause. For more information, go to texasastro.org for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. There's even a link on there on how to buy a telescope. This is KF5 JHA, back to our net control, Billy, KF5 PDS.
Well, it looks like Miss Billy's having some trouble right now. I'm just going to go ahead and break in. I'm going to take some additional check-ins. Well, actually what I can do is Bill and 5BB usually have something on National Space Society events and activities. Why don't you go ahead and do that, and then we'll find out what happened. I don't think we've had that problem in years where Billy can't transmit, but she's having trouble right now. So if you would, Bill, N5BB, go ahead with what you got for us on the National Space Society.
Okay, Tom, this is N5BB. Billy said that transmit button not available, which usually is what happens if the Echolink client thinks that somebody's repeater hasn't timed out then. Anyway, the national I happen to be the membership director of the North Texas chapter of the National Space Society. The National Space Society is a worldwide organization based in the U.S. Concerning activities of humans in space. So National Space Society doesn't deal with astronomy, but it does deal with things like putting humans into space or sending James Webb Space Telescope up, etc., etc. We normally have our meetings on the second Sunday of every month, but right now we've gone back to doing virtual meetings due to the pandemic uptick. So our next meeting is going to be Sunday, October the 10th at 3:30 in the afternoon. I don't know the topic of this meeting yet. It's a little too far out. If you would like to attend the meeting, or you have any questions about the National Space Society, how you can join the national organization or the local organization, please send me an email. You can contact me at space@byrom.net. That's SPACE at BYROM.net. Or an email to n5bb@arrl.net. I think that's it for now. This is N5BB. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Tom, for stepping in. I'm not sure what happened. All of a sudden, it just cut off, and I couldn't transmit. So I logged out and logged back in, and now things seem to be working fine. Very glitch. Looks like we just had the glitch for this mission. All right. And thank you very much, Bill, for the wonderful information about the National Space Society. And up next is NCS topic of the evening. And so for tonight, I have Landsat 9. On Monday, September 20th, NASA TV on their daily program schedule at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, they have Landsat 9 getting off the ground, followed by coverage of the Landsat 9 launch, which is 2:11 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time from Space Launch Complex 3 at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. So as my topic tonight, I wanted to give just an overview of the Landsat 9 device and also about the spectral bands that Landsat 9 has. So if you go to landsat.gsfc.nasa.gov, you can see the information. There's more mission details than I can go into in my short time for the NCS topic, so there's plenty more to read. I'm going to give just a brief overview and go a little bit into the spectral bands of the satellite. And there's a countdown. Right now it says it launches in 1 day, 15 hours, 41 minutes, and 22 seconds and counting. So I just wanted to give a brief overview of Landsat 9. So Landsat 9 is a partnership between NASA and the U.S. Geological Survey. Will continue the Landsat program's critical role in monitoring, understanding, and managing the land resources needed to sustain life. Today's increased rates of global land cover and land use change have profound consequences for weather and climate change, ecosystem function and services, carbon cycling and sequestration, resource management, the national and global economy, human health, and society. The Landsat is the only U.S. satellite system designed and operated to repeatedly observe the global land surface at a moderate scale that shows both natural and human-induced change. Landsat 9 is scheduled for the September 2021 launch. This will join Landsat 8 in orbit. The satellite orbits will be 8 days out of phase. Landsat 9 will replace Landsat 7, which was launched in 1999, taking its place in orbit days out of phase with Landsat 8. Combined Landsat 8 plus Landsat 9 revisit time for data collection will be every 8 days. It currently is for Landsat 8 plus Landsat 7. Landsat 9, like Landsat 8, will have a higher imaging capacity of past Landsats, allowing more valuable data to be added to the Landsat Global Land Archive. Landsat 8, after collecting data for 7 years, 1.86 million images archive, nearly 20% of the total archive holdings, and Landsat 8 adds another approximately 700 new. Landsat 9, like Landsat 8, will be both radiometrically and geometrically better than earlier generation Landsats. Nearly 5 decades since Landsat 1 launched, spectral bands of the Landsat satellites have evolved. Landsat 9 has the most evolved of the Landsat spectral bands. In 1972, Landsat 1 launched with a 3-band Vidicon camera system and a secondary 4-band digital multispectral scanner system, or MSS. The MSS, with its scanning mirror whisking back and forth to create an image, to many researchers of the period, the antithesis of the high-quality camera systems traditionally used. But the secondary MSS instrument proved itself the imaging powerhouse, producing superior data. The 4-band MSS was spectrally coarse. It essentially mimicked the color infrared systems that became used during World War II. Follow-on sensors, Landsat management brought together scientists from diverse fields to discuss and recommend spectral channels most useful for answering questions in their research areas. Informed the more sophisticated thermatic mapper, or TM sensor, with its 7 spectral bands that flew on Landsats 4 and 5. The Landsat TM band placement has subsequently guided all successful Landsat sensors and is also echoed in almost all modern passive remote sensing systems, domestic, international, public, commercial, and even those circling about other planets. Today, Landsat 8 and Landsat 9 have 11 spectral bands acquired by the OLI TIRS and OLI 2 TIRS-2 instruments, respectively. Landsat 9, like Landsat 8, is designed to simultaneously image 4 visible spectral bands, 1 near-infrared spectral band, 3 shortwave infrared spectral bands at 30 meters spatial resolution, plus 1 panchromatic band at 15 meters spatial resolution. Bands at 100 meter spatial resolution. Landsat 9 will follow suit. Landsats 8 and 9 are designed to see 2 additional parts of the spectrum. These new bands will help scientists measure high, thin clouds and water quality. There's some information. There's a lot more to go into, and there's some really good images on the page that show coastal aerosol band, which is band 1. This band helps scientists measure chlorophyll concentrations, ocean color in coastal regions. Most of the chlorophyll comes from phytoplankton, tiny plant-like organisms that live in surface waters. This band is also useful for aerosol detection. There's a band, band 9. This high-thin cirrus clouds can be hard to spot in satellite images. Both the clouds and their shadows can interfere with measurements. Landsat 8 and 9 are designed to detect these clouds by measuring light in the part of the electromagnetic spectrum where the clouds are most visible. Bands 10 and 11 are 2 thermal infrared bands. Everything on Earth emits thermal infrared radiation. The emitted radiation depends on the object's temperature. Landsat 9, like Landsat 8, will image data for thermal infrared spectral regions. The light issues Landsat 8 will be detected on Landsat 9. So here's some interesting information about the Landsat program and the new Landsat 9, which is due to launch again September 27th at 2:11 Eastern Daylight Time for California. So again, the website is landsat.gsfc.nasa.gov, or you could just Google NASA Landsat 9. 5 PDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Step is was up. So at this time, I will turn the net over to Chaz, KF5JHA. Tell us was up from KF5 PDS.
Thank you, Billy. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. I'm a bit distracted tonight because the Ohio State University is playing football, and I've been watching that and trying to do this at the same time. My degree's in astrophysics. I'm in charge of the astrophysics lab at Dallas College on the Brookhaven campus, and we call this segment of Skynet Was Up. Slide Masters, slide number 2, please. On September 20th, the moon was full, so the current phase of the moon is a waning gibbous. On September 26th, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth. On September the 28th, the moon will be at its third quarter phase. On October the 6th, the moon will be new. And on October the 8th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth. Slide Masters, slide number 3, please. On the night of October the 4th, 5th, the October Camelopardalis meteor shower will peak with about half a dozen meteors. And again, the best time to look at meteors is in the early morning sky, before dawn, after midnight. So that's the best time. And on October the 7th and 8th, the Draconid meteor shower peaks with up to 1,000 meteors per hour, but it might only produce a handful of meteors. It depends. We don't know exactly when it produces these storm-like meteors. Most of the time, the meteor shower, again, only produces a handful of meteors. Slide Master, slide number 4, please. On October the 9th, the moon is next to the planet Venus in the western evening sky. Paintings and jewelry and all sorts of artwork are made to look like this sight with Venus and the moon close together. I hope it's a clear evening for us. This is slide number 5, please. On the night of October the 9th and 10th, the southern toroid meteor shower peaks with about a half a dozen meteors per hour as well. And slide master, slide number 6, please. We haven't gone on a tour of the evening sky for a while, so let's look at the 10 p.m. evening sky looks like tonight. Looking overhead, you'll find 3 bright stars. The brightest and the westernmost star is the star Vega. Vega is the brightest star in the constellation of Lyra. The easternmost star is Deneb, which is the brightest star in the constellation of Cygnus the Swan, or the Northern Cross. We talked about Cygnus last week. The southernmost star in Altair is the southernmost star in the asterism called the Summer Triangle. And the Summer Triangle is visible into October in the evening sky. If we go to the southeastern part of the Summer Triangle, we can find 2 small constellations, Equus and Delphinus, which we'll talk about later in this Skynet. Okay, slide master, slide number 7, please. Moving to the south of the Summer Triangle, we can find 2 other bright objects. The brightest of these is to the east, and that's the planet Jupiter. The object to the west of that, and is much dimmer, is the planet Saturn. Jupiter and Saturn are not always in these positions. Being planets, they wander around the constellations of the zodiac. To the lower right of Saturn, you might find the constellation of Sagittarius. For most people, Sagittarius looks like a teapot. Below Sagittarius, close to the horizon, you might see the constellation of Telescopium. And I mentioned that constellation last week. Telescopium can't really easily be seen with your 2 eyes from the city due to the light pollution. Slide Masters, slide number 8, please. To the west or right of Sagittarius, you'll find Serpens, Ophiuchus, Hercules, Corona Borealis, and Boötes. The bright star, Arcturus, is at the bottom of Boötes. And Boötes looks like a kite or an ice cream cone to most people. Slide Master, slide number 9, please. Getting a good star map will help you find these constellations. I recommend a free website where you can find and download a free star map of the current sky. Skymaps.com. They have star maps for the mid-northern hemisphere, the equatorial areas of the Earth, and the mid-southern hemisphere. Did I mention the star maps are free? And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 10, please. Once again, the Task Club meeting, the next one will be on October the 22nd at 7:30 p.m. It's a Zoom meeting, and Brother Guy is the speaker, and his topic is Discarded Worlds, Astronomical Ideas that were almost correct. Task Club members will receive an email link to the Zoom meeting. And once again, our observing sessions on Saturday nights have been temporarily put on pause once again because of COVID. Again, TexasAstro.org is where you can find up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. Slide Masters, slide number 11. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any of the information? Or do you just have a general astronomy question? I don't know everything, but I may know the answer to your question, or someone else here on the net might have an answer to your question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question. Maybe you're all watching the end of the Ohio State University football game. Slide Master, slide number 12. So as the moon wanes at the end of September, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. And until next week, actually I'll be doing another Skynet segment in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5, JHA, back to our net control, Billy. KF5 PDS.
Thank you very much, Chaz. Yeah, and hearing Brother Guy speak is a real treat. So, next up is space exploration and space history. So this time I'll turn the net over to Kelly, K5KTX. The net is yours.
Good evening, everyone. This is K5KTX, and I'm going to start with a mission that's going to be launching soon, and I don't think anyone's talked about it on this net, so I thought I would bring some information about it. Time capsules from the birth of our solar system more than 4 billion years ago. The swarms of Trojan asteroids associated with Jupiter are thought to be remnants of the primordial material that formed the outer planets. The Trojans orbit the Sun in two loose groups, with one group leading ahead of Jupiter in its path, the other trailing behind. Clustered around the two Lagrange points equidistant from the Sun and Jupiter, the Trojans are stabilized by the Sun and its planet in a gravitational balancing act. These primitive bodies hold vital to deciphering the history of the solar system and perhaps even the origins of organic material on Earth. Lucy will be the first space mission to study the Trojans. The Lucy mission is named after the fossilized skeleton of a early hominin, pre-human ancestor, discovered in Ethiopia in 1974 and named Lucy by the team of paleoanthropologists who discovered it. Just as the Lucy fossil provided unique insights into humanity's evolution, the Lucy mission will revolutionize our knowledge of planetary origins and the formation of the solar system. Lucy is scheduled to launch no earlier than Saturday, October the 16th, on a United Launch Alliance Atlas V 401 rocket from Space Launch Complex 41 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. With boost from Earth's gravity, Lucy will complete a 12-year journey to 8 different asteroids, a main belt asteroid, and 7 Trojans, 4 of which are members of the 2 for the price of 1 binary systems. Lucy's complex path will take it to both clusters of Trojans and give us our first close-up view of all three major types of bodies in the swarms, so-called C, P, and D types. The dark red P and D type Trojans resemble those found in the Kuiper belt of icy bodies that extends beyond the orbit of Neptune. The C types are found mostly in the outer parts of the main belt of asteroids between Mars and Jupiter. All of the Trojans are thought to be abundant in dark carbon compounds. Below an insulating blanket of dust, they are probably rich in water and other volatile substances. No other space mission in history has been launched to as many different destinations in independent orbits around our sun. Lucy will show us for the first time the diversity of the primordial bodies that built the planets. Lucy's discoveries will open new insights into the origins of our Earth and ourselves. NASA will hold a virtual media briefing at 1 p.m. Central Time on Tuesday, September the 28th, to preview the launch of the spacecraft. The live briefing will stream on NASA TV, the agency's website, NASA's Twitter account, and the NASA app. Lucy is a Discovery-class mission led by Principal Investigator Harold Howell Levison from the Southwest Research Institute in Boulder, Colorado. NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland will provide overall mission management, systems engineering, and safety and mission assurance. Lockheed Martin Space Systems in Denver built the spacecraft. Instruments were provided by Goddard, the Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory in Laurel, Maryland, and Arizona State University. And here's some interesting news from Mars from the Perseverance rover. Not Perseverance, but the InSight mission. We thought Mars was pretty much volcanically dead, but NASA's InSight lander just measured a quake that would have been unsettling even here on Earth. On September the 18th, the lander detected a magnitude 4.2 Mars quake. Well, that's not too bad, but the troubling part is that it lasted for about 90 minutes straight. Yikes. This was after two other quakes with magnitude 4.2 and 4.1, all beating the previous record of a magnitude 3.7. Impressively, InSight could detect the quake even though it occurred at about 8,500 kilometers away from the lander. This is the most distant that it has ever detected. And in space history this week, starting on September the 20th, back in 1904, Wilbur Wright made the first circular flight in a controlled, heavier-than-air airplane, piloting the 1904 Wright Flyer in a complete circle at Huffman Prairie, a few miles outside Dayton. The flight lasted 1 minute 36 seconds and covered 4,080 feet. Also on September the 20th, back in 1963, President John F. Kennedy gave a speech at the United Nations urging the United States and Soviet Union to cooperate in exploration of the moon. Space offers no problems of sovereignty. Why, therefore, should man's first flight to the moon be a matter of national competition? This was one of several offers of cooperation in human spaceflight made by President Kennedy to his counterparts in the Soviet Union. On September 21st, 2014, the Mars Atmosphere and Volta Evolution, or MAVEN spacecraft, successfully entered Mars's orbit. MAVEN is the first spacecraft to explore the upper atmosphere, ionosphere, and interactions with the sun and solar wind on Mars. Studying the atmosphere of Mars will allow scientists to understand the Martian climate. The ultimate goal of sending MAVEN to Mars is to further understand the planet's atmosphere so that we can send humans to the red planet. On September the 23rd, 1969, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins donned sombreros and ponchos in Mexico as they were greeted by a crowd of thousands eager to see and meet the astronauts. Jetting around the world as part of the Giant Step Apollo 11 Presidential Goodwill Tour, the crews made their first stop in Mexico City. Their motorcade was slowed to a crawl as crowd control struggled to contain the public's overflowing excitement. The global adventure had only just begun. They would soon fly to Buenos Aires, Paris, Tokyo, and more to share their spacefaring exploits and invite people around the world to take part in scientific exploration. At one point, their tour brought them to the doorstep of Pope Paul VI. After 24 countries in 45 days, they finished their circumnavigation with a stay at the White House. On September 24th, 1970, the Soviet probe Luna 16 returned a sample of the moon's surface to Earth. Luna 16 was the first robotic probe to land on the moon and return a sample to Earth. Interestingly, this was the first landing on the moon in the dark, as the sun had set 60 hours earlier. After 26 hours and 25 minutes on the lunar surface, Luna 16 lifted off from the moon, carrying 101 grams of material back to Earth. And on this date, September the 25th, 2012, researchers released a photo known as the Extreme Deep Field, or XDF. It is a composite of 10 years' worth of observations by NASA's Hubble Space Telescope. This photograph was assembled by stitching together over 2,000 images to reveal the deepest view ever glimpsed of the universe. XDF depicts galaxies numbering in the thousands, some of which date back 13.2 billion years. XDF is both a glimpse into the distant past of the universe and a guide to future of deep space study. The XDF is a small fraction of the angular diameter of the full moon. And if you ever need a little perspective on life, go stare at this image and ponder on it while you listen to Carl Sagan read The Pale Blue Dot. All right, and astronaut birthdays for this past week, we have a bunch. September the 19th, 1957, Richard Linehan, who was on Space Shuttle missions STS-78, 90, 109, and 123. Also, September the 19th, 1965, Sunita Williams, who was on Space Shuttle STS-116 and 117 as part of Expedition 1415. She was also part of Expedition 3233, and she is scheduled to fly on the first crewed Boeing Starliner 1 mission, which hopefully will take off sometime next year. Also on September the 19th, 1987, Kayla Barron, who has not flown in space, but she is on the crew for the SpaceX Crew 3 mission, Expedition 66, which is scheduled to launch on Halloween, October the 31st. On September the 20th, 1960, James Polzick, who was Space Shuttle mission STS-90. On September the 21st, 1955, Richard Hybe, I think is how you pronounce that, Space Shuttle missions STS-39, 49, and 65. September 22nd, 1965, Robert Satcher, who was on Space Shuttle mission STS-129. And September the 23rd, 1944, Lauren Shriver, who was on STS-51C, STS-31, and STS-46. And rounding out the last three, September the 23rd, 1961, William C. McCool, who was part of We Lost on the Columbia mission, STS-107. September the 24th, 1930, John Young, who has quite the impressive resume. He flew on Gemini 3, Gemini 10, Apollo 10, Apollo 16, Space Shuttle mission STS-1, and STS-9. And then finally, September the 24th, 1975, Nick Hague, who was on Expedition 59 and 60 on the International Space Station. And that's all I've got this evening. This is K5KTX, back to the net.
Thank you very much, Kelly. All right, next up, before we get to Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. I'd like to pass it back to Tom, KE5ICX. If you'll do another check-in round, and then you have my permission to turn it over to Chaz directly after you're finished checking in, folks. So to KE5ICX from KF5PDS.
Thank you, Miss Billy. This is KE5ICX. I do have N5IMS. JJ over in Carrollton checked in. Looks like we're limited on echo length. There's only allowed 10 in right now, so I'm sure there's elsewhere if you're out there. Felipe is there. I don't know his call sign. He may not have one, but I see him over on YouTube. So he's there. I think that's it there. I'll take check-ins over air now. If you'd like to join us, please come now with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
This is Kilo India 5, Kilo Tango Zulu Philip, White Rock Creek, East Dallas.
Alpha Fox 5 Delta Grand Prairie, name is Bayou Bravo Alpha Yankee United.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Shauna Fort Worth.
Okay, we picked up 3 more. I've got KI5ITZ, that's Philip over in White Rock Creek in East Dallas. I've got AF5 Yankee Yankee Uniform or over in Grand Prairie. Could I get your name again? I got you in Grand Prairie and I got your call, but I didn't quite get your name.
Yeah, hopefully I can hold the repeater. The call is Alpha Foxtrot 5 Delta. America, Florida 5 David. The name is Bayou. Bravo Alpha Yankee United. Name is Bayou, not by me. Bayou, not by me. Go ahead.
Right, I got you over. It's Bayou. I messed up everything here on your call. All right, I got you. And I got KV5SOK. That's Sean over in Fort Worth. Anyone else checking in? All right, well, I've been asked to go ahead and let Chaz back on the radio, so I don't know. Maybe we should just let him be third-party traffic. No, we won't do that. Chaz, KF5JHA, go ahead. You have another segment on What's Up. I think it's Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. Go ahead from KE5ICX.
You are welcome to be concerned. Yes, this is KF5JHA Chaz. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week from almost its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total constellations, so Ms. Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen from Texas in a year. In her honor, we've continued the tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Ms. Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is actually a twofer: Delphinus the Dolphin and Equus the Horse. Equus constellation lies in the northern sky. Its name means little horse or foal in Latin. Equus is the second smallest constellation in the sky after Crux, the Southern Cross. It occupies only 72 square degrees. Equus, the little horse or the foal, lies between its big brother Pegasus and Delphinus the Dolphin. Most historians agree that Ptolemy first wrote about this constellation back in the 2nd century. Delphinus represents the dolphin sent by the sea god Poseidon to find Oh, see, I'm messing up names too. I hope somebody can help me out with this. Obi-Wan and Tamiri. Delphinus is the 69th constellation in size, occupying only an area of 189 square degrees. The constellation also sometimes referred to as Job's coffin because of its long box-like shape. Mostly the name is restricted to the 4 stars on the constellation: Alpha, Beta, Gamma, and Delta Delphini. Slide master, slide number 14, please. And of course, this is what all of you have been waiting for, the jokes of the week. Okay, here we go. Make sure you laugh at these, all right? What do you call a horse that likes to stay up late? A horse that likes to stay up late. Yes, I'll be looking over here on Echolink, see if anybody types in an answer over here. Okay. A nightmare. Okay, well, okay, I like that one. What did the mother horse say to her foal at the end of the day? It's past your bedtime. You have to think about that one, I think. What kind of food do racehorses like to eat? Oh, thank you, Keith. You did do past your bedtime. Yes, they like fast food. Keith, are you looking these up on the internet? Okay, we're going to switch to a dolphin. My buddy has recently, he's really been depressed recently because his pet dolphin ran away. You see, his life has no purpose now. Why are dolphins so successful at dating? They always click with one another. You've got to know what dolphins' languages are to get that one. And the final one for this part, anyway, dolphins give the worst directions. I always have to ask them to be more specific. There's an ocean of answers on that one. Slide master, slide number 15, please. Alpha, or Alpha Equili, is a spectroscopic binary star of spectral type G03. It has a visual magnitude of 3.92 and is approximately 186 light years in distance. It is the brightest star in Equus. It is about 75 times more luminous than the Sun, has 2.72 times the mass of our Sun. Gamma Equili, or 5 Equili, is also a double star. It belongs to a spectral class of A9 SREU. It has a visual magnitude of 4.7 and is 118 light years in distance. Epsilon Equili is another multiple star system in Equus. It consists of 4 components. It has a visual magnitude of 5.3 and is 196 light years away from us. R Equili is a Myra-class variable star. It is an M-red giant. It varies in magnitude from 8.7 to 15 over a period of just 260 days. It's one of the many variables that are monitored by the members of the AAVSO, which is the American Association of Variable Star Observers. We've talked about them in the past. Slide master, slide number 16, please. NGC 7015 is a galaxy with a visual magnitude of 12.4. That's kind of faint. It's 2 minutes by 1.8 minutes in size and about 220 million light years in distance. NGC 7015 is a face-on spiral galaxy that shines, at a very dim, as I said, about 12.5 magnitude. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 17. Let's switch to Delphinus. Alpha Delphinus is the brightest star in this constellation. It has a combined apparent magnitude of 3.77. It's a multiple star consisting of seven different stars. A and G are a physical pair, and B, C, D, E, and F are just optical binaries. Wow. Beta Delphinus was discovered to be a binary star in 1873 by the American astronomer S.W. Burnham. The system is about 1.8 billion years old, and it consists of a pair of stars belonging to a spectral class of F53 and F54, a giant and a subgiant, approximately 101 light years in distance. Gamma Delphinus actually is another binary star. It's also 101 light years in distance. The primary component is a yellow-white dwarf with a spectral type of F75, and a companion star, which is an orange subgiant belonging to spectral class K14. The stars have magnitudes of 5.14 and 4.27 respectively. Struve 2725 is another separate double star that is very near Gamma Delphinus. Both can fit in the same eyepiece field of view, since they're only about 14.5 arc minutes apart, about the width of the first quarter moon. Slide master, slide number 18, please. NGC, which stands for the New General Catalog 6934, is a relatively large globular cluster near the star of Epsilon Delphinus. It's approximately 50,000 light years in distance and has a visual magnitude of 8.83, which means you can't see with your two eyes, but with a moderate-sized telescope you should be able to see it fine. Slide master, slide number 19. NGC 7006 is a globular star cluster located approximately 137,000 light years away in the outskirts of the Milky Way. Slide number 20. The Blue Flash Nebula. NGC 6905 is a small planetary nebula, bluish in color. No wonder it's called the Blue Flash. It can be observed in a 6-inch or larger telescope. Now this one is a cool one. Slide number 21, please. French one, or the asterism toadstool. Yeah, it looks like a toadstool, a mushroom, is on the Astronomical League of Open Cluster Club. It's a group of stars. It's also on the Asterism Club. It's a group of stars that's named for a toadstool by Sue French, the writer for the Deep Sky Wonders column in Sky and Telescope. Her earliest mention of this in print is in the Small Scope Sampler column in October 2002 issue of Sky and Telescope. This article includes a nice finder chart with close-up views, and also mentions that in the Tretia 2000 Atlas. I messed that up. Even labeled it as French 1. Keith was wondering where the video is for Skynet. Just go to YouTube and search DARC Skynet, and you should find it. I hope that helps you out. This is KF5JHA, Slide Master, slide number 22. There are more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Delphinus the Dolphin and Equilus the Horse. I've just given you a sampling of a few of those objects. The Astronomical League has about 73 different observing programs, most which have about 100 objects. So, if you observe just 10 objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen in about a year. Slide number 23. And that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Delphinus the Dolphin and Equilus the Horse. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell For the research and words on deep sky objects that I've used, borrowed, and stolen, I always steal them, don't I? For tonight and every Skynet, I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Next time, I'm going to take a look at just a single constellation, Capricorn, the Sea Goat. And this is KF5JHA sending this back to KF5 PDS, our net control. Good night, everyone.
Thank you very much, Chaz. We appreciate all that you do. You cover What's Up and Miss Carolyn's Constellation. So next up is space launches for the week. So at this time, I'm going to send the net over to Tom, KE5ICX, if you'll get us up to speed on the space launches from KF5 PDS.
Thank you, Miss Billy, and this is KE5ICX, and yes, their topic this evening was Landsat 9. I can give you some information on the launch, which is September 27th. This will be launch site SLC-3E at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. The Atlas V rocket will launch the Landsat 9 Earth observation satellite for NASA and the U.S. Geological Survey. Built by Northrop Grumman, Landsat 9 will continue in the series of Landsat images of Earth dating back nearly 50 years. The rocket will fly in the 401 vehicle configuration with a 4-meter fairing, no solid rocket boosters, and a single-engine Centaur upper stage. We then have overnight, September 30th, October 1st. This will be the RAISE 2 mission. This is from the Ichinora Space Center in Japan. The Japanese Epsilon rocket will launch the Rapid Innovative Payload Demonstration Satellite 2, or RAISE-2, technology demonstration satellite for the Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency. 8 smaller rideshare payloads will also be on this launch. Later in October, we will have a launch of an Electron rocket, Black Sky 10 and 11, from Launch Complex 1A in Mahia Peninsula in New Zealand. The Rocket Lab Electron rocket will launch 2 small satellites for Black Sky's commercial fleet of Earth observation spacecraft. Rocket Lab has nicknamed this mission Love at First Insight. Sounds like Chaz work. This is delayed from August and September. On October 5th, we have a Soyuz launch, the ISS. This will be launched from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. A Russian government Soyuz rocket will launch the crewed Soyuz MS-19 spacecraft to the International Space Station with cosmonaut Anton Shkaplerov, film director Klim Shipenko, and actress Yulia Persild-Sakharov will remain on the ISS for a long-duration mission, while Shipenko and Persild will spend about 12 days before returning on a different Soyuz spacecraft. The Soyuz MS-19 capsule will remain at the station for about 6 months, providing an escape pod for the residents. The rocket will fly in the Soyuz 2.1A configuration, and don't forget, it doesn't say it, but it'll have a forgotten upper stage. What doesn't it have? On October 14th, we have another Soyuz launch, OneWeb 11. This is from Vostochny Cosmodrome in Russia. The Russian Soyuz rocket will launch 36 satellites into orbit for OneWeb, which is developing a constellation of hundreds of satellites in low Earth orbit for low-latency broadband communications. The Soyuz 2.1B rocket will use the Fregat upper stage. On October, we also have no date yet, but this is the last one I have for you, the Long March 2F Shenzhou 13. This Long March rocket will launch the Shenzhou 13 spacecraft with 3 Chinese astronauts, or tachionauts as they're called, to rendezvous with and dock with the Chinese space station in low Earth orbit. This is China's 8th crewed space mission and the second to the Chinese space station. And that's it for me. Back to you, Miss Billy, KE5ICX.
Tom. All right, next up is visible satellite passages. Let's see, recent astronomical discoveries. Recent astronomical discoveries. So at this time, I'll turn the net over to Brenda, WB5OZL. The net is yours.
Thank you, Billy. This is WB5OZL. The title of this article is Gigantic Cavity in Space Sheds New Light on How Stars Form. Astronomers analyzing 3D maps of the shapes and sizes of nearby molecular clouds have discovered a gigantic cavity in space. The sphere-shaped void, described in the Astrophysical Journal letters, spans about 150 parsecs, nearly 500 light years, and is located on the sky among the constellations Perseus and Taurus. The research team, which is based at the Center for Astrophysics, Harvard and Smithsonian, believes the cavity was formed by ancient supernovae that went off some 10 million years ago. The mysterious cavity is surrounded by the Perseus and Taurus molecular clouds, regions in space where stars form. Hundreds of stars are forming or exist already at the surface of this giant bubble, says Shmuel Bialy, a postdoctoral researcher at the Institute for Theory and Computation at the Center for Astrophysics, who led the study. We have two theories. Either one supernova went off at the core of this bubble and pushed gas outward, we call the Perseus-Taurus supershell, or a series of supernovae occurring over millions of years created it over time. The findings suggest that the Perseus and Taurus molecular clouds are not independent structures in space, but rather they form together from the very same supernova shockwave. This demonstrates that when a star dies, its supernova generates a chain of events that may ultimately lead to the birth of new stars, Bialy explains. The 3D map of the bubble and surrounding clouds were created using new data from Gaia, I think it is, a space-based observatory launched by the European Space Agency. Descriptions of exactly how 3D maps of the Perseus and Taurus molecular clouds and other nearby clouds were analyzed appear in a separate study published today in the Astrophysical Journal. Both studies make use of a dust reconstruction created by researchers at the Max Planck Institute for Astronomy in Germany. The maps represent the first time molecular clouds have been charted in 3D. Previous images of the clouds were constrained to 2 dimensions. We've been unable to see the clouds for decades, but we never knew their true shape, depth, or thickness. We also were unsure how far away the clouds were, says Catherine Zucker, a postdoctoral researcher at the CFA who led the APJ study. Now we know where they lie with only 1% uncertainty, allowing us to discern this void between them. But why not map clouds in the first place? There are many different theories for how gas rearranges itself to form stars, Zucker explains. Astronomers have tested these theoretical ideas using simulations in the past, but this is the first time we can use real, not simulated, 3D views to compare theory to observation and evaluate which theories work best. The new research marks the first time journals of the American Astronomical Society publish astronomy visualizations and augmented reality. Scientists and the public may interact with the visualization of the cavity and its surrounding molecular clouds by simply scanning a QR code in the paper with their smartphone. You can literally make the universe float over your kitchen table. Harvard professor and CFA astronomer Alyssa Goodman, a co-author on both studies and founder of Glue, the data visualization software that was used to create the maps of molecular clouds. Goodman calls the new publications examples of the paper of the future and considers them important steps toward the interactivity and reproducibility of science, which AA has committed to in 2015 as part of their effort to modernize publications. We need richer records of scientific discovery, Goodman says, and current scholarly papers could be doing much better. All of the data in these papers are available online on Harvard's Dataverse so that anyone can build on our results. Goodman envisions future scientific articles where audio, video, and enhanced visuals are regularly included, allowing all readers to more easily understand the research presented. She says it's 3D visualizations like these that can help both scientists and the public understand what's happening in space and the powerful effects of supernovae. Okay, that's it. This is in ScienceDaily.com, and I'll turn it back to the net. This is WB50ZL.
Thank you very much, Brenda. All right, next up is visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. So at this time, I'll back over to Tom, KE5ICX, if you'll give a set report. And if you'll go ahead and do a final check-in round, because at that time, it'll probably be about time to close the net, and get me a final head count for this evening's net, I'd appreciate it. So to KE5ICX from KF5PDF.
I'll do that, Miss Billy. This is KE5ICX. Now, I do have just a few passes. I don't know what it is at this time of the year. What is it? The autumn equinox or something. Something happens with a lot of the satellite passes that we do. They just go down. The International Space Station doesn't have anything that's of interest this month or this week. I've got the X-37B, which here in Dallas is a little bit hard to see. It's a 3.2 magnitude, but I do have one for October 3rd. Yes. 0.9 magnitude at 6:38 a.m. out of the northwest. It'll reach its highest point at 6:41 at 66 degrees, and it'll fall at 6:44 out of the east-southeast. That's it for that. Evansat, which is a very large dead polar satellite, that one has, I've got three I can give you on that one. We got September 26th. That's at 6:45 a.m. It reaches its highest point at 6:50 at 72 degrees, and it falls to the west-northwest at 6:55. The 29th has a past 3.0 magnitude, a little bit difficult to see here in our city lights. It'll be out of the north-northeast, 6:34 in the morning. It reaches its highest point at 87 degrees at 6:39, and then falls at 6:44. And then finally, on October 4th, there's actually two passes. The second one is the better of the two. 6:47 a.m. out of the north, it'll reach its highest point at 6:52 at 66 degrees, and it'll fall at 6:58 in the south-southwest. So, reasonably good passes. And that's really all I can glean from it. I'll just tell you that you can go to Heavens Above, that's heavens-above.com. You can plug in your longitude and latitude, and then you can find all this information. As I mentioned in other nets, the Heavens Above also collects Kepler information on all of the ham radio amateur satellites that are in orbit as well. So if you want to use that without having to use one of the programs, you can. So, and it's easily available any place, anytime on the internet. Just go to their website. Okay, I'm going to take probably our final list of check-ins. I believe it is our final list of check-ins. So if anybody would like to join us that has not done so already and would like to, please come with your call sign, phonetically your name, and where you're transmitting from. Okay, anyone on Echolink would like to join us, please come now.
Oh, N5, HYP, not on Echolink.
Tom, I got you, N5HYP. I bet you're here for the next net. But I got you. If anyone else want to check in, please come down. All right, Miss Billy, I've got 25 check-ins for this evening. Back to you, KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. I copied that tonight we had 25 hams participating on the air, so thank you to all who checked in this evening. We hope that you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you'd like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discuss about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook, Twitter, as well as our audio streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. So until next Saturday night, this is KF5TDS, Billy, and I'll be closing the net at 22:27 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 7-3, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. And remember, stay tuned. Following Skynet is the Afterglow movie net. Take care, and 7-3, everybody.
Normal state.
And this is KE5ICX. We'll take about a 5-minute break. We'll come back. We'll be discussing the movie Star Trek Insurrection, which is on for free on YouTube this month. So come back for that. 5 minutes from now. This is KE5ICX.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow movie net.
asked, anybody want to do the net control for this one? Raise your hand, or better yet, press your push to talk. Alright, no one had a Spartacus moment. I figured that might happen, but that's okay. I don't mind. It's Star Trek. I'll do it. Not one of my most favorite ones, maybe not even one of the top ones, but it had the words, two words Star Trek in it, so I guess it couldn't be too bad. Or could it? I don't know. This is KE5ICX. I'll be net control for tonight's Afterglow Movie Net. Tonight's movie is Star Trek Insurrection from 1998, directed by Jonathan Frakes. It's the ninth film in the Star Trek film series, as well as the third to star the cast of Star Trek The Next Generation. It had F. Murray Abraham, Donna Murphy, and Anthony Zerbe, one of my favorite character actors who did a lot of television work in the 1960s. In the film, the crew of the Enterprise E rebels against Starfleet as they discover a conspiracy with a species known as the Sona to steal the peaceful Bakos planet for its rejuvenating properties. So maybe I'll give you some of the background on it here. It says Paramount Pictures sought to change the pace after Star Trek First Contact. Michael Piller was asked to write the script of the next installment, which was created from the story ideas of Piller and producer Rick Berman. The story first drafts featured the Romulans, and the Sona and Baku were introduced in the third draft. After Ira Stephen Bear reviewed the script, Piller revised it and added a subplot involving a love interest or romantic interest for Jean-Luc Picard. Film's ending, which was further revised after test screenings, the special effects depicting outer space were completely computer-generated, a first for a Star Trek film. The Baku village was fully built on location in Lake Sherwood, California, but suffered weather damage. Sets from the television series Star Trek Voyager and Star Trek Deep Space Nine were reused and redressed. Michael Westmore created the makeup for the new alien races, and Robert Blackman revised the Starfleet dress uniform designs. Sanja Milovic Hayes created costumes for the Baku from cellulose fibers, which were baked and glued together. Jerry Goldsmith produced the film's score, his fourth for the franchise. Insurrection was the highest grossing film on its opening weekend, making $22.1 million in the United States and Canada. The film went on to gross $70.2 million in the United States and Canada, and an additional $42.4 million in other territories. For the theatrical run of, everybody got your calculator? Hit enter. $117.8 million worldwide. Critical responses to the film were mixed. The performances of Patrick Stewart and the directing of Jonathan One Take Frakes were praised, while other critics compared it to an extended episode of the television series. Insurrection was nominated for both a Saturn and Hugo Award, but the only award it received was a Youth in Film Award for Michael Welch. It was followed by Star Trek Nemesis in 2002. And if you saw it on YouTube, you may have been force-fed Star Trek Nemesis right after that. Well, it was way past my bedtime last night, so I didn't get to see it. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and take check-ins. You do not have to have seen the movie. That's fine. You can even talk about Star Trek. If you heard the plot, you might recognize a few stories you've seen in the past. That's possible, and that's okay, because not everybody sees the movie of the week, and maybe they saw it, in 1998, and trying to remember all the details might be a little bit of a problem. But that's not a problem with us. We don't mind, and we'll fill you in on the blanks, and we'll definitely tell you what we think about the film, even if you have not seen it, or it's been a long time since you've seen it. So, when we do the check-ins, when we do the rounds after check-ins, we'll talk about the plot, followed by the acting or characterizations, and finally the special effects. Or anything, depending on how much time is left, we may open it up to just about anything, and you can make your comments then. Okay, let's go ahead and get check-ins. Please come now with your call sign, your name, and let me know if you saw Star Trek Insurrection. Yes or no? Here we go.
Kilo Golf 5 Bravo Zulu Whiskey J near Weatherford. I did see the film.
November 5, Hotel Yankee Papa. We saw the movie in the backyard just now. Had a good time.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima. Brenda, DeSoto. Yes, I saw the movie.
Kilo Foxtrot 5 Tango Sierra Kilo. I did see the movie.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo. Sean, yes, I did see the movie. November Tango 5, Tango Mike. Tony in Dallas, saw about half of it.
All right, let me go ahead and get those check-ins, and we'll take another round. I got KG5BZW, that's Jay near Weatherford. Yep, you saw the movie. N5HYP, Tom and company, saw the movie just now. CB5OZL, Miss Brenda, yes, she saw the movie. KF5TSK, that Burl, he saw the movie, and he's here tonight. Wonderful. KB9SOK, that's Sean. Yep, he saw the movie. NT5TM, Tony's only saw half the movie. Hopefully he saw the good half. Anyone else? And I will also take Echo Line in case you're wondering out there. If you would like to check into tonight's Afterglow Movie Net, Star Trek Insurrection from 1998. So please come with your call sign, name, and did you see the film? right, there may be some stragglers later on, so we'll just go ahead and begin. I'm just going to go down the list in order. How about that, huh? We'll start with Jay, KG5BZW. Jay, what'd you think about the plot to Star Trek Insurrection from KE5ICX?
Oh, this is KG5BZW. Yeah, I don't know. Those that said that it was, those critics that said it was a kind of like an extended episode, I kind of agree, but I don't know that that's particularly a bad thing. I didn't know from your introduction that it had, from your introduction I learned that it had so many other plot points from other Star Treks. Or maybe I did. Or I don't know. This is just one of those movies that, like, I don't hate it, but I just, it's kind of hard to even register. I have some recollection of its, I don't know if I even watched it in the theater. I remember one, at the time, the reviews being mixed in, I don't know, I watched some other crappy movie. This one wasn't actually that crappy, but it was enjoyable. But yeah, don't get your hopes too high. The First Contact was really fun. This compared to that, I don't know. It's hard for me to summarize, but literally, that's I just don't really hate it. It wasn't. I didn't feel like it was a waste of time to watch it again. I literally am trying to figure out how I did watch it the first time. I'm not sure if it was theater or if I watched it on, like, went ahead and watched it on video or something like that. But anyway, yeah, kind of forgettable, but it's fun. KG5BTW.
All right, thank you, Jay. Next up is Tom and Company, N5HYP. Tom, your thoughts on the plot from KE5ICX.
Good evening. This is N5HYP with Holly and Anna in the background there. We watched the movie tonight. I'm sure I saw it when it came out in the theaters, but for the life of me, I really didn't remember a lot about the plot. I guess part of the issue is that, it is fun. It's enjoyable. It has everything that you wanted in a Star Trek Next Generation movie, which kind of extended, your interest and understanding of several characters. It had the elements of conflict and the elements of stress and the elements of, it starts off really idyllic, which means you know that something's going to go wrong real quick, and that's exactly what happens. So it was a good ride. For what it is it Oscar material? No. But was it a fun ride? Yes. And that was kind of our agreement here. This is N5HYP, back to net.
Okay, we've got a thumbs up and another thumbs up so far. Next is Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda, what did you think of our movie pick this evening, Star Trek Insurrection from 1998 from KE5ICX?
This is WB50ZL. Well, how can I not love it? I love Star Trek. All Star Trek. That can do no wrong. For some reason, I had never seen this movie, and I don't know why. seen everything else. I have no explanation other than I don't think I was in prison, but there's just some gap in my experience there in 1998. It's not a masterpiece, but it's certainly no worse than most other Star Treks. Has all the right elements, all of our favorite characters, and the little one-liners, and Picard is going to save the day, no matter what. So, just a lot of real standard elements in this show. That's okay. I enjoyed it. Wouldn't mind watching it again, actually. Although I will have to say that those people on the planet were just absolutely annoying. They were like too perfect, and I definitely don't want to live with them. All right, back to net. This is WB50ZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda. And I have to admit, I will interject this. You got to watch the reviews from Mr. Plinkett over on YouTube. If you've never seen them, now remember, he uses a lot of swear words, so be ready for that. But his review of this movie is absolutely hilarious. In some ways, it's better than the movie, but that's just me. Mr. Plinkett and Star Trek Insurrection. He's reviewed every Star Trek movie and every Star Wars movie. And if you're a film school student, you learn a lot about motion pictures along the way. Next up is Burl, KF5TSK. Burl, you saw Star Trek Insurrection. What did you think about it from KE5ICX? Plot, please.
This is KF5TSK. Well, I enjoyed the plot all the way through. It was my first time seeing the movie. A lot of ways I was impressed. I couldn't get my YouTube to work, so I viewed it on Prime Video. I was impressed with the sound that it was just something I really, enjoyed. Unfortunately, I only listened to it on a computer that just had 2 speakers, but I was just really impressed with the audio range. Sometimes in looking at Star Trek movies, that you can really get excited about their explanations of what's going on, and they have transporters and they have anti-transporters, and it's enjoyable. I thought it was a good plot. KF5TSK, back to net.
Okay, thank you, Burl. Next up is KB9SOK. That's Sean over in Fort Worth. He saw the movie. Sean, your thoughts on Star Trek Insurrection?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, yes, I agree with kind of some of the reviews that this feels more like just an extended episode, but a good extended episode. No, it didn't have quite the epic feel as some of the other Star Trek movies that they've done. It wasn't quite as grand or over the top. No major enemies that we've known for years in the series. But it was still, I thought it was still decent. I still enjoyed it. It wasn't my favorite one, but I still enjoyed it. The last time I'd seen it was actually at the theater, so it'd been quite some time since I'd seen it. I've kind of forgotten a lot of the episode, which maybe is a little telling, because most of the other movies I have a pretty good memory of, but I remember the gist of it. Of course, this movie was primarily was focused on, once again, which is typical of the Star Trek episodes, trying to teach us a lesson. And once again, this movie is all about, relocating a group of people from their homes for various reasons, and then this not being right. And obviously, this was the big focus of this, was to once again remind people of the mistakes of ourselves in the past, and just reminding us of why that's not a good idea. So really, that was the main focus of this particular movie, and they definitely pushed that very well. So yeah, it just, it was just kind of like just a decent episode. The characters really weren't that advanced, or didn't really advance the characters much more than what we've seen in the previous movie. So there wasn't a lot of development there, but that's okay. Once again, we already know these characters, so I guess you really don't necessarily need to. The other kind of subplot was, once again, they're starting to show, which they started showing at the end of the series, about Starfleet kind of falling apart and starting to make some really bad decisions about, what to do. And obviously in the movies that follow, it just seems to get worse and worse, which it, also followed into the Picard series towards the very, if you watched it on CBS. So yeah, so this was kind of the the first sign of that decline. One kind of funny thing, I don't know if anybody else has been watching the Lower Decks, but this season they've definitely been making fun of the Riker character, which has been very, very much copied from this episode. He goes in guns blazing, and it doesn't matter, it's just kind of his plan always. And yeah, they really got to stop giving him control of the ship, because he either wrecks it or almost destroys it. Anyway, back to net control. This is KB9SOK.
Oh, thank you, Sean. And Lower Decks, one of my favorite shows. They did an episode last season, around this time last year, and they made fun of all the Star Trek movies, and oh, geez, so over the top, and so hit on this film so much. It's really kind of interesting. I'll talk about that in a bit. NT5TM, Tony, you saw half the movie. Did you see the good half or the bad half from KE5ICX?
Well, I got distracted. I can't figure out quite what's gone wrong with my lecture and lab kit, so I may have to try to find some tips from the group or online tomorrow. I saw the eerily familiar half. That turned out to be the beginning. But it was like, oh, look, they're surveilling some idyllic population. There'll be a secret, nefarious plot. And I bet they've discovered the Fountain of Youth. And I bet somebody's going to try to steal it. And I bet there'll be controversy over saying, no, we mustn't steal it. So, well, it was certainly being entertaining in the half that I saw. It was not in any small way being even a little bit unpredictable. So the comments that I've heard so far about the plot sound on track, that it was entertaining. It sure is shaping up to be entertaining, but not Oscar-worthy, because if I could, sing along with it so far, then it can't be that original writing, because I'm not a writer. So definitely enjoying it. I'll probably finish it, and that's what I got so far, NT5TM.
Very good. Thank you, Tony. And hang around. We got another round to go here. I'll go ahead and ask if anybody else would like to check in this evening. We're talking about Star Trek Insurrection. We're currently talking about the plot. If you'd like to join us, you don't necessarily have to have seen the movie, but if you would like to check in, by all means do so. Please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see Star Trek Insurrection from 1998? All right, I'll take that as a no. That's okay. I see some folks listening in over on the echo link, but nobody there wants to step up. Okay, the plot. Well, yes, I wrote the little ditty that you heard during Skynet this evening about the fact that really these are all mini episodes that were already done. Mini storylines from other episodes. Future and Perfect, where they used a holodeck to deceive. That's been done more than once. I mean, Ship in a Bottle was the same thing, another episode. Yes, I'm a Star Trek fan. Not quite the Star Trek fan everyone thinks I am, because I kind of stopped watching after Deep Space, well, about halfway through season 1 of Deep Space Nine. So my stuff is Next Gen and original series, but I recognized enough stuff from Next Gen to see that they had recycled a bunch of plots. That was one. The Fountain of Youth, yes, we had that, and what was it, the Omega Glory, which was the original Star Trek episode where they lived for hundreds of years, and you know, all that. The Crazy Commander, Star Trek is all about having crazy commanders. The guest starring crazy commanders, in this case played by the magnificent Anthony Zerbe in the not-so-magnificent Admiral Matthew Doherty role, but we'll talk about that later. He turned out to be kind of a shallow, I thought, in the end. Let's see. One of the things here is that one thing I don't understand about Starfleet Command and Starfleet and all of that is when good commanders go bad, when good ideas go bad, nobody seems to ever know about it. That it just amazes me how they go to the Santa Barbara shopper or something to get their commanders for Star Trek, because they're all kind of like crazy Looney Tunes anyway. And looking at Riker and Kirk, I would say they're crazy Looney Tunes anyway. So just saying with that, but that's more like characterization. The Picard. Oh, wait a minute. That's characterization. Hold on. Let me think first. Let me recalibrate. They had a love story, and that was okay. I'll go into the elements of it later, but it kind of slowed the movie down quite a bit. At an hour and 40 minutes, I mean, it's usually 20 minutes shorter than your average film. I thought it moved rather slowly until the few sequences that they had towards the end of the film where it started to pick up. And by the way, that solar sail weapon thing that was going to blow up the rings in that, it was so distracting. It looked like special effects that weren't completely done. A bunch of blue screen type stuff in the background. That was supposed to be normal, but couldn't you find a different color than blue screen? Maybe it was green screen originally and they made it blue. I don't know, but it just looked kind of distracting and not realistic to me. Let's see, people running around, being shot at, that seems to be a real fun thing. Not much there that I saw that was of particular interest. The fact that the two races were related was kind of interesting. The fact that the characters were from another world and happened to settle there, that actually came from yet another episode. I forget the one where Spock starts laughing, but that episode. So, I don't know. I'd seen these things so many times before in other Star Trek episodes, it's hard to not remember them in that way. And the reason you can't remember the plot to this episode, to this movie, is because you remember all the episodes that actually did a kind of a better, longer job on explaining what was going on, rather than cramming 3 or 4 plots into a 2-hour movie. One of the things that drives me nuts in this film is the fact that it's so easy to mutiny or not do what Starfleet Command wants. Whether it be Data being commandeered and turned into the fighting machine, which has happened more than once, I would think that they would take him out of circulation, or at least have an off switch that works more than 10 feet away. That just didn't make any sense to me. I mean, the M5 computer was another example of that, and and they even put the plug on it across the room so that people could be zapped when it needed power, till other people got in the way. So it was, I don't know, just kind of silly, I thought. What else? Alright, I guess that's all I'll say for now. I had another thought, but I didn't write it down, so I forgot exactly what I was going to say. I'll probably come back to it later. Okay, let's see. Anybody else want to check in? Please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitted from. We're talking about Star Trek Insurrection from 1998.
You know my program?
Kilo India 5, Baker Andrew, Quebec, checking in.
I got one. KI5 Victor, and then you faded out on me. Try one more time. And your name, please.
Kilo India 5, Baker Andrew, Quebec, checking in, radio check.
Okay, I can do that. There's loud talking in the background. You keep cutting in and out. I got Kilo India 5, Victor something Quebec, and your name, please. Okay, I think that was just somebody passing through. All right, let's go to the top of the list again. We're talking about Star Trek Insurrection from 1998. We'll go on to characterizations. Boy, we got a lot of characters in this thing. So we'll start with Jay, KG5VZW. Jay, your thoughts on characters for Star Trek Insurrection? Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
Well, yeah, this is KG5BZW. Characters, you've got, of course, the standard. Next-gen characters, who, you know, each played their part. What to say? The Sono were the most interesting thing about the Sono is like how exactly did Federation actually, you know, get involved with them? There's that whole part of that you know how this arrangement came to be seems to be a little bit thin. So, what I'm trying to the consistency of the characters with, I don't know, maybe what you'd think would be the truly noble actions of the Federation. You know, we are talking about Star Trek, where we have a fairly idealized world. In that world, the Federation. And of course, there's other shows where it's like, Federation's not doing what you would hope they would do, and all of that. I guess this is one of those, but I don't know. It was really kind of suspect from the beginning, which. I don't know that they really explained that, but again, they had to cram all that, the romance and all that stuff in this movie, and it was already long enough, so yeah, they didn't really explain that. Why did they have to cram that in? Well, you know, cram romance, and hey, Captain Picard, I guess has to have his fun too. I don't know. Actually, the romance angle I didn't think was that bad. It did slow the movie down. And I'd say, I guess, the pairing wasn't that bad. It's just it's hard to talk about because the film does have a lot of, I think it does suffer from what you've already described about the plot. That does kind of affect how you view the characters and all that. I think what's exactly unique about the characters? Well, I don't know. They don't really explain a lot of things to it. It's just there's this perfect little world, and they have this perfect little sci-fi Amish community, and oh, I don't know. I just don't know. I'm just gonna leave it at that because I'm still, I guess, processing it, and I wouldn't be processing it if it weren't for this net. But anyway, KG5 BZW back to net.
Okie doke. Thank you, Jay. Next up is Tom, Holly, and Anna. N5HYP. Tom, your thoughts on characterization from Star Trek Insurrection. KE5ICX.
This is N5HYP. Okay, characterization. Really, again, pretty much know all these characters already. Well, there's a couple new ones. The one ensign guy, he's new. He's never been around before. But he doesn't have a lot of. There's not much going with him. You do, I guess, in some of the emotional things, like the emotional. The relationship that's been there for a long time between Riker and Troy, gets kind of has its little moments here due to the rejuvenative properties of the planet. And then you got Worf, having Klingon adolescence, as it were, I guess, and. So, aside from those things, the characters are what they are supposed to be. Nobody really tried to venture into new ground because I think you would have alienated a lot of Trek fans had you done that. That's just kind of the way it works with most of this type of movie. Once you have a stable set of characters, you don't really do too much with them. That's on characterization. I don't, it is what it is. Like I said before, you watch these movies because they're a great ride, because you enjoy the continuum that is Star Trek. Well, the continuum that was until you got the new version of Star Trek that J.J. Abrams threw up, which was good in its own right. Just a different set of the way the characters worked. But aside from that, that's fine. This is N5HYP, back to net.
All right, thank you, Tom. And you just gave me some ideas on characters for my section. Okay, next up is Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda, go ahead with your ideas on characterization for Star Trek Insurrection.
This has got to be. Well, it's really a little hard to develop the characters when you know them so well. They're predictable, and we've lived with them for decades, so we kind of know what they're going to say. They tried to make Data into a villain, but of course that didn't work out. That was reversed, and you generally don't have any. All their relationships are already in formulaic. There's no new conflict or new discoveries or anything unusual about their relationships. It's just standard, like we've had for many years. And likewise, you didn't see a lot of growth in any of them either. They're just pretty much set in stone. I'm not sure what you could do, but is tested or has some kind of crisis of faith or something happens. But these guys were all just level. Except, of course, Data, but that didn't count. It wasn't his fault. As soon as they put the right chip in, he was just fine. Well, so, as I mentioned earlier, the people on the planet were just insipid, boring people. And there's something about the way they lived that just kind of annoyed me. There were too many of them. They're all too close together. And you know, almost like Stepford people. They're just too perfect. And so I did not enjoy those people. All right, I'll quit for now. WB50ZL, back to net.
Okay, Miss Brenda, if you say so. I seem to recall that you do some role play with, like, Baku people, but that's okay. I did notice they don't have any animals, and that was true in that thing. What was the name of that episode? Immunity Syndrome or something? The one where everybody was perfectly healthy for a long time and nothing happened, and Spock fell in love with Jill Iroh. You remember that episode. But in any case, okay, which is yet another story, I think, that they stole from. Okay, next up is Burrow, KF5TSK. Burrow, what did you think of characterization for Star Trek Insurrection from KE5ICX?
This is KF5TSK. Well, the first person I would start with was Picard. That seemed like this is almost the first movie that he became romantically involved. And moving on to Ricard, you know, it looked like he was in the hot tub when he was talking to Starfleet Command. And, you know, they showed some scenes of Ricard romantically involved, but it seemed like this was, you know, more involved, kind of added on to the plot. Vice Admiral Daltrey, that I found it, you know, seemed like every movie that Starfleet captain is talking to an admiral, it's almost like the Starfleet captain really has superior intelligence over the admiral. I'm not sure why that is, but you know, you get the impression that the Starfleet captain has analyzed all the angles, and the admiral is just, well, I'm just sitting here holding position, and you know, wonder how did they ever get to that position. Only other thing that I thought was unusual is Data. Data always gets these relationships with children, and you know, maybe someday in the future he'll get a romantic relationship, but he always seems to have something, some kind of discourse with children. But I thought everyone did, exceptional job, I guess, with their character. KF5TSK, back to net.
Bill, you actually gave me some other things to talk about. That's the advantage of being a net control is they put yourself last, and then you can take notes and be super smart later on when you had no notes when you started the round. So next up is KB9SOK. Sean, your thoughts on characterization for Star Trek Insurrection?
Yes, KB9SOK. Yeah, it's been pretty well said. Obviously, these were pre-developed characters. Not a whole lot's going to change, and necessarily not a bad thing. Once again, a Star Trek movie or these kind of series aren't going for Oscars. They're just fun, and that's really all they're meant to be. But I do feel that they could have done more than they did. I was definitely disappointed with the Data character. It seems like they've made such a big deal in the previous movie about the emotion chip and all this and that, and in this episode he didn't even use it. So it seems like really his character stepped back. Once again, he was trying to explain to the child that he wanted to be more human, but yet he wasn't using his chip. So it seemed like to me he went backwards. And yes, we've seen this particular thing with Data before where he gets out of control for whatever reason, and they have to temporarily shut him off. And so yeah, that part, there was no originality there. Picard was classic Picard. He's going to talk his way out of a conversation. That's what he does. And I agree. The Admiral was an absolute idiot. It makes you think. It's like, and how many episodes we've seen where, yeah, you're right, the Admiral goes bad. But yet if they got to an Admiral level, I would have to think that they were awful good officers and were a lot smarter than the decisions they're making as they get to that higher position. So yeah, he was probably my least favorite character actually. I found him kind of annoying. It just seemed like, yeah, he wouldn't be in that position at all. And in Starfleet in general, it just seems like, for years we've built him up to be this, standing for good. And it seems like here in the later episodes, it's like, they're not anymore. It's like, would they really have tolerated this? Would they have really made that decision? It just... So yeah, that is a little disappointing there. Yeah, we've seen, Riker and the counselor getting back together, which is, I think that was a little bit of fanfare, because everybody wants to see that, of course. Everybody wants a happy ending. Everybody wanted to see them together. So that's not surprising that they kind of introduced that there, and that was fine. Picard's love interest, yeah, that seemed a little bit thrown in, agreed. I mean, she played it well. I think she acted it well, but it's just, once again, it kind of felt like an episode where there wasn't going to be a lot. And yeah, the comments about the sets, that makes sense now. I think back, I have seen a lot of those props, it seems like, before in other episodes. So that's kind of funny that they reused it, especially for a major movie. So yeah, Worf, that was just kind of forced in there. I mean, really, he was almost there as a comic relief in this one. Just kind of poking fun at him. The poor guy, it seems like in every movie he gets some weird situation. That really wasn't much there, and there wasn't much development with the Doctor or the other characters that we know. Obviously they touched a bit with Geordi LaForge and, be able to see for the first time, and they kind of touched on his blindness and what that might be like. But, so, yeah, I mean, I guess there wasn't a whole lot, but predictable, but I guess that's okay. Back to net control. This is KB9SOK.
Very good. Thank you, Sean. And you gave me some more notes as well. Next up is Tony, NT5TM. He's quickly trying to finish the movie. Wake up, Tony. It's your turn. From KE5ICX. We're talking about characterization.
Well, thank you, but honestly, I'm still trying to figure out what's going on with my lecture and lab kits. So, really, for the half of the movie I watched, the characters all just seemed familiar. The ones we know. I do agree with that comment about fan service. Yeah, that seemed to be what was going on there. I guess I'll probably have to go put this kit down and try to watch the movie because I'm just driving myself crazy here rechecking resistors and things. I cannot give her any more, Captain. She's going to emit bursts of static. NT5TM.
All right, thank you, Tony. And we won't pick on you anymore. Okay, so notes, and I thank you all because I stole most of my notes come from the comments that were already made, so it makes it easy. When we started this round, as I said, I didn't have any notes at all, and then at the end of this round, I've got a number of notes. And I'm going to just comment on a few things. First off, this series, Star Trek The Next Generation, and the movie series are produced by the same people. Rick Berman, Ira Barr, there's others, I can't think of their names right now. They're all participated in the movie. And Brenda, yeah, Doug Drexler was in there in the credits. You saw him, he did some of the set stuff. So just to let you know, your buddy had worked on the film. Oh, wait a minute. Did I get, yeah, I guess I did. Okay. So you're going to get kind of that look and feel because the show was discontinued after 7 seasons, even though it was doing rather well, but the salaries were escalating and they decided to go ahead and do movies. I think they could have easily gone another 3 or 4 years with Star Trek, although with Deep Space Nine going on, they split everything up and made things a little more difficult. Okay, that's the one part. So the look and feel is going to be the same, and the characterizations are going to stay the same because basically this is just a continuation of the TV series. The problem with movies like that is, or telling a story like that, if the characters do not learn or evolve, if they end up being the same as when they begin and when they end, which I've mentioned many times before, particularly in a movie series like this that's built upon a television series that is successful because of the characterizations, you stall it out, and we get frustrated because there's no actual development. You have to be a fan to enjoy the film. If you're a casual person seeing Star Trek, you probably sit there and say, okay, it's all right, but it's kind of like, what's really happening here? Nothing. One of the things here, and this is interesting too, I think, is that when you're doing a television series, particularly one that Gene Roddenberry had created this second time around, he wanted to do an intellectual series way back when he did the original Star Trek, The Cage. And quite frankly, Next Generation was really an iteration of that series, what he originally wanted to do. The shufflings and things he did later on with Gene Kuhn for the original series Star Trek turned it more into action adventure. Next Gen was a little more cerebral. Now, it did have bad episodes. There's no two ways about it. When you have hundreds of episodes, there's going to be some really bad ones. But there were also some really good ones. And the best ones talked through the things that were going on and provided a really good moral footing and sometimes amoral footing and discussion topics that really, really worked. The movie had some of that, obviously, but they had explored those categories and those things many times before, so it didn't feel original. Someone mentioned Worf being forced in. Well, you got to remember when they concluded Star Trek The Next Generation, they signed those people up for movies, the potential for movies, and that included Michael Dorn, who played Worf. Well, he had gone on and decided to work on Deep Space Nine. He just moved over after the conclusion of Star Trek Next Gen to Deep Space Nine. So he was forced into the movie, and I don't doubt that he didn't mind the salary that went along with it. That's more than what you would do in television, at least for the time involved. So why not? So they had to bring him in. And there's nothing wrong with that. He's a really good character, and it's really a lot of fun. Now, one thing, somebody else mentioned field assignments and crazy commanders. Now, I want to tell you something, and you can look this up if you want. There's a Facebook page, and it has a motivational speaker, and his name is Commodore Matt Decker. I know the guy really well. So check it out. He's one of the crazy commanders. He even did a Crazy Commander of the Month Club, naming all of the Star Trek crazies that end up on Star Trek. And it always, as I mentioned earlier in the plot, I never understand how the heck they can find these guys, put them in Starfleet, and they do well. However, come work for my company. We have managers that are really crazy and out of touch. And maybe that's what happened, is they get into a position and they get out of touch. Field assignments are field assignments. If things happen, they see the repercussions of what happens with Starfleet, and you sort of go, okay, they have street cred. They know what's going on. They can see what's happening. If you're in Starfleet and you're light years away, you may not necessarily have the same reaction. Or you go to the Starfleet Golf Club and you go golfing with the Vice Admiral and the Admiral and all that, and they're talking about their golf game, then maybe that doesn't come up in conversation. Is that far-fetched? Not really. So let's see here. I was going to mention too, and this actually goes back to story, but I mentioned that Next Gen is kind of more intellectual, more discussion. Well, it's cheaper to do that too. When you're doing a movie and you're spending money and you got this big gigantic screen that you got to fill, you're going to fill it with explosions, lots of explosions. It's really important to do that. But the downside of all this too is that because you have an ensemble cast, typically 7 characters, you have to shoehorn them into a 2-hour plot. And when you do so, that means somebody's not going to get screen time. The original Star Trek was also like that. However, your triveterans, your Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, pretty much were always in the forefront. Whereas Next Gen really was an ensemble cast. And that was on purpose. After the 4th season and beyond, every character had their own stories that they could tell, and the other characters were pushed aside, which is perfectly fine in small storytelling on television. You go to the movies, you got to shoehorn everybody in, give them their 5 minutes of fame, literally, and then move on to the explosions, which have to take a lot of time out as well. And because of that, you've got too many notes. I mean characters, I think. So if you remember Amadeus, that's why it's too many notes. And then finally, the hero syndrome and the fights. And this was mentioned as I read it to you in the preamble thing on insurrection. This is very true. And that is, you take your typical Star Trek character. He's got an intellectual in Picard. He's not the one he's more likely to give you a history lesson than he is going to take a laser rifle and shoot you down. Shatner, Kirk, on the other hand, he might shoot you first and ask questions later, but even he talked a bunch of computers to death in his time. So shooting and screaming and yelling and all of that just drives me nuts. And in the previous film, First Contact, Picard cried, he shouted, he was angry, he was all those things. So they drove it down a notch, but he still had to take the guy out at the very end, F. Murray Abraham. Gandhi had to die. So that's how he took care of him, with the staples in his head. So that's kind of my thing on the movies. And then finally, I'll just make one other comment, because this is what happens when you do Star Trek as it is originally envisioned. And that is, just watch Star Trek, the motion picture, the first film that came out with Shatner and Nimoy. When you watch that film, it's slow moving. It is dialogue heavy. It involves our 3 characters, although the characterizations were somewhat shallow in the movie. But it played out like a regular episode. The enemy was non-corporeal, had no personality, none of that. It was described as a thing, and it fell flat. People didn't like that film. I personally liked it, but I'm the exception. Most people couldn't stand that film. It was boring. Star Trek, the Motionless Picture, it was called. But it was Star Trek. It would have made, and it actually did make, a pretty good episode of Star Trek, because they also stole the entire plot from The Changeling, from the second season of the original Star Trek. But at least we had 10 years rest between those two pieces. So there you have it. What do? Well, you got to have a fisticuffs Captain Picard doing things that aren't Captain Picard-like. You got to have the mutiny. You got to make sure that the characters are all motivated at the same time, because you can't convince them one at a time, because the movie would be 14 hours long, like Star Trek: The Motion Picture. So you don't want to. You want to move things along, but when you do so, the motivations go out the window. The characters act in weird, quirky ways, like they're on some sort of drugs. And so, and in fact, I think the planet itself was supposed to provide some of that bravado that came out of it, that they're all getting a little, really involved with the planet's overall effects. Just saying. The hot tub thing was okay, I guess. Okay, that's it from me on that. I'll go ahead and ask, anybody else want to check in at this point? We still got time for another round. Anybody else want to check in, please come with your call. Sign your name where you're, and whether you saw Star Trek Insurrection. Please come now. We scared them all away, or I did. Okay, the next round we'll talk about special effects, music, whatever you want to talk about. I think the film was rich in all of that stuff, good and bad. So let's go start at the top, KG5BZW. Jay, your thoughts on special effects, music, whatever you want to talk about on the film. Go right ahead from KE5ICX.
Oh, this is KG5BZW. It's hard, just side comment. It's hard to know if my signal's going to be getting into the repeater good. I almost have to wonder if something's going on the repeater side. And of course, we got this little intermittent thing going on, but anyway. But the real thing is that noticing the signal strength, and it was down quite a bit low. Who knows what's going to be going on just atmosphere-wise. It's a new phenomenon I've definitely seen. Just perception just go down and up. And, just some sort of conducting, whatever, I don't know. Anyway, at least hopefully it looked like it was up right now. We got music, we got special effects. Let's go ahead. I can't really say anything about the music. It's the standard. It's next gen stuff with Jerry Goldsmith and good music overall and all. But you were kind of wrong about Tom. You were kind of almost they made use of a pretty sure that was a CGI little alien hamster thing that they around and whatever, and so it's kind of like, I'm guessing you, but when you said that, you were more like referring to cattle or whatever, but or something. Did they maybe misremembering. I'm trying to remember what they said about their food digestion over the vegetarian. Special effects wise, well, you had that critter, you had the briar, which seemed a little bit extra for for a TV series. It did look, movie quality. I don't really remember anything that was terrible. It seemed all to fit within the Star Trek universe. It's interesting when I can't remember. I know who it is. I'm just having freeze as to what his name is. The alien transport versus the Star Trek transport. Also the use of kind of use of drones before. It's kind of interesting seeing what you would call, you and I call drones, being, 20 years later, flew kind of like drones, even if they didn't have the props and whatnot. They just, little things that you just swap out. And I know it's not like these things haven't been shown before, but it's just, it struck me how much of more it felt like more like the drone characteristics of the drones that we have today. It's I don't know. Maybe I'm just like that. So, I thought that wasn't too bad. The shots by the crew. I don't know. The battle scenes were, there's some silliness to them, but whatever. I think it's something else. There's a few things I know if I've been prepared, I'd be able to say something. I'm not prepared, and it's not that big a deal to me anyway. So I'll hand it to the next person. This is KG5B.
Very good. Thank you, Jay. Next up, Tom, Holly, and Anna. N5HYP. Anything you want to talk about? Special effects, music, thoughts, even follow-ups on anything you've already heard from KE5ICX.
Hey there, Tom. KE5ICX, N5HYP in the group. Effects. Well, by 98, CGI had gotten significantly better than some of the earlier movies. So there wasn't anything really spectacular in this. I did kind of wonder if the drones had their FAA licenses, to be able to be flying around, but they weren't. They were CGI. And, it didn't break any ground. Let's just put it that way. It didn't break any ground in special effects. Music was very much Star Trek, like Jay said. It was what you would expect. It was nice that they shot the whole thing, or a big chunk of it, on location. In the mountains, some pretty gorgeous scenery. I would like to hang out there for a while. So it was fine. It made you. It was a film that made Star Trek friends for the most part happy, fans for the most part happy. And I'm tired. I'm losing it. So, good night, all. We'll see you next week. This is N5HY. Well, actually, I may not be here for the next couple of weeks, but I'll see ya. This is N5HYP.
Okay, thank thank you, Tom, and hang in there. Go to bed. Yeah, I took 2 naps today so I could stay awake. I took one this morning around 10 o'clock because I've had real serious allergies this week, and it's been Benadryl that puts me out. And then, of course, I had a second nap this evening so that I could stay up late tonight. So, let's see. Next up is Brenda, WB50ZL. Miss Brenda, your thoughts on anything you want. You can talk about either follow up with anything that we've already discussed, music, special effects, whatever you want. Go ahead from KE5ICX.
This is WB50ZL. Well, I think there's a lot of agreement here. There's a lot of controversy. Everybody's kind of in agreement on a lot of stuff. Yeah, no new groundbreaking, formulaic, but, that's okay. What do we expect? Those groundbreaking effects comes in spurts, and this just wasn't their time for that. But I will say it didn't, it wasn't bad either, so that's good. The scenery was gorgeous. I enjoyed that. I thought they scored a big one with that. I just think, I think we beat this horse already. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up. I'm just insane with sleepiness, so I'm just not much good to anybody right now. So back to net, WB50ZL.
My goodness, people are pooping out just like the movie kind of did there for a while. I do remember falling asleep a couple of times. The last 2 times I saw the film, I managed to stay awake seeing this film, but I could have taken a nap. Okay, KF5TSK, Burl. Burl, your final comments. What do you think? Music, special effects, comments people have made, comments on comments, whatever you want. Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
It's KF5TSK. Well, one of the things I think in this whole movie is that, Starfleet always sends one ship and everybody else sends 7. And it's like they're always outnumbered, outgunned, things are failing. I don't know, it always bothers me about the admirals that the admirals always seem to be younger, and I guess they just don't have a perception of what's going on. You wonder how did they get to be an admiral that because the starship captains always seem to be better. But I like the music. I thought the special effects were good. I was watching on Prime Video, and my graphics were very good. So I enjoyed it, but the screen was it was widescreen, but it was like everything was much smaller because they had a border around the screen. That's all for tonight. KF5TSK, back to net.
Okie dokie, thank you, Burl. Yeah, I understand your feelings. Why is it only one starship, But, I don't know. Well, when they had the thing, twice, the 3 times they had aliens coming to invade Earth, and the only ship available is always the Enterprise. And one time it was with the Enterprise at dry dock with a bunch of kids on board. So you explain that one to me. Okay, next KB9SOK, that's Sean. Sean, your comments, final comments, whatever you want to say about whatever's been said, or something new. Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, I agree with the comment on the there's always just one ship, and but yet they talk about Starfleet having thousands, and they showed that in the Picard series that they had, where at the end there was literally thousands of them. But it's the only time I've ever actually seen them, bring the cavalry. So that is kind of funny. Not a lot of comments on the comments of the comments of the comments. I think everyone says been well said. The one thing I will kind of comment on is I did, for some reason in this movie, it really stood out to me for some reason, that it seemed like just like the weapons and a lot of the stuff that was in the scenes just looked cheap to me, actually. They looked, you could tell they were, super lightweight. They weren't, they didn't look like rifles. It just, something actually, for some reason, I don't know why, I remember this distinctly when I watched them, use the weaponry and stuff, but it just looked like it was not particularly high-tech, like it was literally the props that they had from the TV series, which you understand because their budget's much smaller. So as far as that aspect of the special effects, I was actually a little disappointed. I think as far as the space battles, and the other special effects where the CGI was used, I think it was adequate for that time, and I was okay with that part. For some reason, I don't know why. Some of the hand props, I guess, would be just didn't look quite right to me for some reason. And the other thing I found that was interesting is, of course, is the Enterprise E, of course, because the D was destroyed, but they really didn't show a lot of it. I was a little disappointed in that, because the ship has always been almost like another character in the show. They always talk about how it has its own life, and this one there just wasn't a lot of focus. I know there wasn't a lot of time, but also, too, I thought it was very interesting that they chose to make everything very dark looking on the bridge and throughout the ship when they did show it, to where the Enterprise D was very bright and very vivid, and this one everything was just like they had the lights on dim the entire time, even before the battle, and the structuring was all very steel looking instead of the softer look of the original. So I actually was a little disappointed in the new Enterprise. To me, it just didn't feel right. But yeah, the music was what you would expect it to be, which I'm glad. Actually, the music should have been what it was. That was decent. But yeah, just overall thoughts. Yeah, this was, I enjoyed it. It was okay. Not the best of the series. If you're a fan of the show, then yeah, you should see it. But as kind of mentioned earlier, if you are a Star Trek fan, you really need to watch that Lower Decks, because at first I didn't think I was going to like it because it was a cartoon, but as I've been watching it, I'm really kind of enjoying it. It's actually been pretty good. Back to Net Control. This is KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. And who is it? Oh, doggone. I can't think of the character's name now, but he appears now in Lower Decks' first 2 seasons. Gary. Not Gary 7. I'll think of it. I'll mention it later on the final round. Well, this is the final round. Doggone, I can't remember. The character that had the superpowers. He appeared in 2 episodes. He was in Where No Man Has Gone Before. And it had Gary Lockwood in it, and he plays the character that turns into the superhuman. And now that character has shown up in 2 episodes of Lower Decks. I have a feeling from the first season and second season. In the 3rd season, which has been renewed, we'll probably see him again. He keeps showing up all the time now. Okay, next up, Tony may be glad, he may not. NT5TM, any final comments? Go ahead, from KE5ICX. that nice of me, I gave him an out. He's just going, no, I don't want to talk to him anymore. I've already told everything I can think of, which he did mention, by the way. So at any rate. Okay, things about the movie, and as far as special effects, I agree, nothing special. As I read, and I just discovered when I was reading it, that a lot of the props were used in Deep Space Nine, and of course those props were used indoors on stage. So when you take the styrofoam and you put it outside out in bright sunlight, it looks like, surprise, styrofoam. So that shouldn't be anything earth-shattering that we didn't already know. Star Trek, for years and years, has always been done on the cheap. Even today, it's still done on the cheap. Yes, it's a more expensive cheap, but compared to other productions, it literally costs what a normal production would cost. Motion pictures, the same way. Now, they say Star Trek, the motion picture, cost lots and lots of money. No, what they did is they wrote off 10 years of tried and failed things like relaunching the series and paying Gene Roddenberry some money so that he could buy lunch for everybody once in a while and stuff like that. So $49 million at a time when a typical budget was 12 or 15 seemed excessive at the time. These films fall well within in the cost factor, and the fact that they had years and years, decades of Star Trek. They could drag in old props and things. They had their own prop department when you think about it, just because of that. So yeah, it looked cheap because it was cheap. Let's see. He made a comment about the steel and all that, as opposed to the 80s version of, we're looking at the 80s, 1985 version of the Enterprise, and now we're looking at the 1998 version of the Enterprise. A number of years have gone by, folks. The idea and what Gene Roddenberry had originally said with the soft Enterprise D was that it was supposed to be lived in. It's supposed to be families. It's supposed to be space has become sort of like this luxury liner, but it's still dangerous. And everything had round curves. In fact, the Enterprise itself had round curves all around it. There was not a straight line on the whole thing. And that was by design. And Drew Probert designed that ship to be like that. And when you look at it, it's kind of interesting. If anybody has ever felt that the Enterprise, the original, and then even the next-gen Enterprise felt kind of weirdly shaped, like the engines were too high, that it would cause the thing to turn over and over. Yeah, it looked beautiful on screen. It didn't seem physically right. Well, when they finally came out and did the E and many other ships that have shown up in the series, Voyager's another one, you'll see that it's much more streamlined. The engines fit closer to the body of the ship and all that. So it gives it more of that, what seems like a more natural look to it, I guess, if you want to call something that doesn't exist more natural. Oh, and I was going to mention, as far as the sets, the steel look was starting to show up in Voyager, which would have been coming around sooner or later, probably in the next couple of years. So those designers probably just took it to the next level. So it was evolving over the 12 years or whatever that the series had been on the air. Lastly, music by Jerry Goldsmith. I loved the original score that harkening back to the motion picture and was used in Next Gen as their theme song and all of that. And Jerry Goldsmith is my favorite composer of all time when it comes to movie and television music, so it's pretty hard for him to have done anything wrong in my eyes. But I do find, too, that the overuse of the Next Generation theme or the original theme precludes and displaces other music that he can and does and has done. But those interludes, particularly his softer music, the stuff that is more melancholy, usually comes out very, very well. I don't think Jerry Goldsmith ever wrote a bad score. I just don't. So I kind of am jealous or picky about the fact that I want to hear more original music. I've heard the Star Trek theme many, many times, and more music, even a new theme, would be nice, such as what happened with Voyager. You can see the guy can write music. All right, those are my comments. I'm going to stick with them, even if it was rambling. If anybody has any final comments, please come with your call sign now.
November 5, India Mike Sierra.
N5 IMS, JJ. I'm sorry you couldn't get into Echolink this evening. I think I know why. I got to fix the configuration file. But I saw you out there, and I acknowledged you on the previous net. What do you got for us from KE5ICX?
I have the explanation on why the admirals throughout the series were never quite as good as the captains were throughout the series. It's basically because of something called the Peter Principle. And let me read what it says in there. The Peter Principle is generally expressed as, in a hierarchy, every employee tends to rise to his level of incompetence. Basically means you have a good captain, therefore you've got to promote that good captain. And so you promote him up one level. Well, he's not good at that next level. He can't handle, the higher level details, etc. He was better as a captain than he is as an admiral. So that's kind of where that stands. Hopefully that helps clarify everything for everybody. This N5 IMS, back to net.
Oh, thank you, JJ. I did write that down. It was right under my notes where it says field assignment. I did put in Peter Principle, but that's fine. You beat me to the punch, and that's perfectly okay. You are correct, and I think that does happen. I sometimes wonder about it. I got a couple of rapid promotions very quickly, and I'm beginning to wonder if I fit in that Peter Principle as well, because I feel I'm in over my head. Boy, do I feel like I'm in over my head. Okay, we are done. I'm going to tell you what next week's movie is. We're going back to 1951. The movie was called Unknown World, or sometimes known as Night Without Stars. It's a 1951 independently made American black and white science fiction adventure film, directed by Terrell Morse, and starring these great names: Bruce Kellogg, Marilyn Nash, Jim Bannon, and Otto Waldis. The film concerns a scientific expedition seeking livable space deep beneath the Earth's surface in the event of a nuclear war. Makes living above ground impossible. That's the story. I think it's about an hour long, something like 74 minutes. The movie is 74 minutes long. Don't forget, if you're listening and you want to know what the movies are ahead of time, by all means, give me a ring. Let me reset. We actually made it to midnight. I thought we might end early, but we actually ended on
Elvis
if you want to know what any movie is anytime and you miss a net or whatever, just send an email to me, Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray KE5ICX at yahoo.com, and I'll put you on the list. Otherwise, you can go to the YouTube, or not YouTube, but the Facebook page, and look for Afterglow Movie. That's 2 words, Afterglow and Movie. And just sign up there. And there's actually a list of films potential and on the board that we'll be using a couple of weeks in advance. I send out the movie assignment by email, usually Sunday morning sometime while I'm having coffee, and you'll get the latest synopses. That's it for me, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. Have a great rest of the weekend, and we'll see you here next week. This is KE5ICX. I'm clear.